I'm Dave Jones with Dave Jones Realty, and if you're moving to Connecticut and worried you'll only have 3 or 4 houses to choose from, this video is going to save you a lot of frustration. I pulled actual smart MLS inventory numbers from Fairfield, Hartford, Litchfield, and New Haven counties, and one county has more homes for sale than the other 3. So let's break it down county by county so you know where you should focus your search. Let's start with Fairfield County because this is the one that most buyers have on their list before they even get to me. Right now, Fairfield County has 1,141 homes actively for sale. Homes are averaging 31 days on the market, and there are only 1.5 months worth of supply. So even though there's a real number of homes to look at, they're not sitting around very long. And if you find something you like in Fairfield County, you need to move on it fast because that inventory number is deceiving. It looks like choice from a distance, but it disappears quickly when you're actually in the middle of a search, scheduling showings, watching listings go pending before you even get an answer back. I've talked to buyers who searched for months in one town, watched every decent listing get 5 or 6 offers, and never had a real shot. Not because they weren't ready or not qualified, but because the town simply didn't have enough inventory. That's not a buyer problem. That is an inventory problem. And it's something you can check before wasting months in the wrong county. Now let's go to Hartford County. This one has 934 active listings, the lowest of the 4 counties I want to talk about. The days on market is 18. The month supply, 1.3. That is a tight market by any definition. There are fewer homes to pick from, and the ones that are there are getting snapped up faster than anywhere else in the state. If you're relocating here and hoping to take your time browsing in Hartford County, comparing a handful of options before making a decision, the numbers are telling you that is not realistic right now. No matter how good your intentions are going to be, you don't have time. Now, here's something I want to make sure it absolutely lands. 2 different counties, 2 different flavors of tight. Fairfield's got more raw inventory but moves fast. Hartford's got less inventory and moves even faster. Neither one is giving buyers a ton of room to actually shop. So where does that leave you if you want real options during your search, instead of grabbing whatever's available before somebody else? Real quick before I keep going, if you are moving to Connecticut or selling in Connecticut, we need to figure out which county is the perfect fit for you. That's exactly the kind of thing my team does on a daily basis. No pressure, just a real conversation about your real estate needs. Next up, let's talk about one of my favorites, Litchfield County, because this one is going to be totally different than the other 2, and you need to understand the nuance of Litchfield County. Litchfield only has 493 active listings currently, which on paper sounds like the least amount of choices. But here's the twist. Litchfield has 2.7 months worth of inventory, almost double Hartford's number. So yes, there are fewer homes on the market, but they are sitting a little bit longer, which means there's less pressure per house. Even with a smaller overall pool to pick from, quantity and competition are 2 completely different things. And Litchfield County is proof of that. Fewer homes doesn't automatically mean a harder search. Sometimes it means just the opposite. It's smaller, a quieter market where the odds are still in your favor as a buyer, just with fewer total doors to knock on. Next up, we're going to talk about New Haven County. Right now, New Haven County has 1,304 active homes for sale. That is more than Fairfield's 1,141. That's more than Hartford's 934. That's more than double Litchfield's 493. Out of the 4 counties I work in every single day, New Haven County has more homes on the market right now than any of the others, and it isn't even particularly close. Days on market here in New Haven County, 29. Month supply, 2, which puts it in the healthy middle ground of Hartford and Fairfield without being as slow moving as Litchfield. If you want an actual selection of homes to walk through, not 3 or 4 options, but a real pool to compare side by side, weigh against each other, and actually take your time on, New Haven County is quietly where that happens, and almost nobody is talking about it. And this isn't just one hot pocket skewing the numbers for the whole county. Here's the question worth asking. Why would a county with this much inventory not be the first place that buyers go to look? Part of it is branding. Fairfield County has the name recognition, the towns everybody's heard of before they even start searching. Hartford County gets a lot of attention because it's the state capital and it shows up in every economic headline. New Haven County sits between them geographically and honestly in the conversation too. New Haven County has major cities, a real coastline, college towns, dozens of smaller communities, but it doesn't get packaged into a single, easy headline the way the other counties do. So buyers skip right past it without ever pulling actual numbers, and they end up fighting for scraps in a county that never had much inventory to begin with, when the more spacious market was sitting right next door the whole time. There's also a timing piece to this that most buyers never think of. Inventory doesn't just sit there evenly across the whole county. It builds up in specific towns for specific reasons, whether it's more new listings hitting the market, homes taking a little longer to sell, or simply more total housing stock in that town to begin with. New Haven County has a wide mix of towns, from big cities like Waterbury and Meriden to smaller communities like Naugatuck, Cheshire, Prospect. And the variety is part of what keeps the countywide inventory number as strong as it is. You're not relying on one or two towns to carry the whole county. You've got depth spread across a lot of different options at a lot of different price points, which is exactly what a buyer with some flexibility on location actually needs. So picture this for a second. A buyer moves here with a $500,000 budget. Their focus is entirely on Fairfield County because that's the name they kept seeing online. And after 2 months of losing homes and losing offers and watching homes get snapped up in under a month, they're burnt out. They're frustrated, wondering if Connecticut was even the right call. Meanwhile, a half an hour away, in a town like Milford or Hamden or Meriden, there's a genuinely deeper pool of homes sitting on a 2-month supply, giving buyers time to think, to do inspections, to negotiate. This is not hypothetical. That's the exact gap between what people assume about the state and what the inventory and data actually shows. And here's the rehook I want you to sit with before we get into other towns. If you've been telling yourself this move is going to be a grind, a fight for every listing, an uphill battle from day one, that assumption might be based on the wrong county entirely. The data doesn't support the story everywhere in the state. It just supports it in the places everybody already assumes are the answer. And here's some context that makes that even more meaningful. Statewide inventory has actually been in a multi-year slide. Back in 2021, there were 6,858 homes for sale. That number dropped to 5,646, then all the way down to 4,878. It's basically held flat right around there ever since. So when I tell you a county has more inventory than the others, I'm not talking about a market that's been flush with options for years. I'm talking about relative breathing room inside a state that's been tight across the board since the pandemic and hasn't really loosened back up in a meaningful way since. Every single county has felt the squeeze. Some just felt it a lot less than others. New Haven County is one of the ones that has held up the best through it all. That's exactly why this kind of county by county breakdown matters so much for our buyers. If you're moving here from somewhere completely different with a different supply picture, you might not even realize how tight this whole state has been for so long. You show up expecting the kind of selection you had back where you're coming from, and instead, you're competing for scraps in a county that had no breathing room for many years. Knowing which counties actually held onto some inventory changes your entire strategy before you ever put in an offer. Let's get specific because I want you to see the spread across real towns, not just one county-wide stat sitting on a spreadsheet somewhere. Let's start with Milford. This is one of the larger towns in New Haven County, right on the coast, and it's carrying 95 homes of active inventory with 1.9 months supply. That's a real healthy pool for buyers to work with, especially if coastal access matters to you and you still want options instead of one or two homes to choose from. Milford might be a great choice. Another good option is Hamden with 98 homes for sale, 1.9 months supply of inventory. Hamden sits close to New Haven itself, gives you a great mix of neighborhood types with one town, and consistently has one of the deeper inventory pools in the whole county month after month. Meriden with 80 active listings, 1.8 month supply, and a price point that's genuinely friendly for a buyer working with a tight budget. Another great option is Naugatuck with 57 active listings, 2.1 month supply. Naugatuck is a smaller town, but that supply number tells you these homes aren't disappearing overnight the way they would in Hartford County. You'll have time to actually think through an offer instead of just rushing to get one because you're under pressure. Same thing goes with Cheshire, Connecticut. 58 active listings, 2.2 months supply, and a little more upscale feel than some towns around it. It's still inside New Haven County's border, which is an advantage. It has a walkable center, a real sense of community, great bike trails, awesome schools, lots of big stores, walkable town center, and a real sense of community, some great restaurants also. The next one I want to talk about is Waterbury. This one deserves its own mention because the number here is the biggest of the entire group. Waterbury is carrying 161 homes of active inventory, 2.3 months supply. That's more raw inventory than any single town I've mentioned so far in this video or the last one by a wide margin. If sheer selection is what you're after, Waterbury alone gives you a bigger pool to search through than most of the other small counties in the state, and it's all inside a single town. Did you notice a pattern here across every one of these towns? Milford, Hamden, Meriden, Naugatuck, Cheshire, Waterbury. Every single one of them is sitting at close to 2 months supply. Several of them are above it, and none of them are near the 1.3 month supply you're dealing with in Hartford County. That's not a coincidence. That's what it looks like when an entire county has more breathing room built into it than the county sitting right next to it, town after town after town. So here is the honest version of why this actually matters in plain terms. When you've got more homes to choose from, you are not forced into a decision out of desperation. You don't have to waive all your inspections. You don't have to waive your mortgage contingency. You actually can compare layouts, compare commute times, compare yards, compare light, compare which street feels the way you want to live after you move, instead of just taking the first one that you were able to get. When your only real options are 2 or 3 homes and inventory is that tight, you end up settling for something that's not close enough. Or you end up in a bidding war because you have 0 alternatives. If you lose that one house you liked, more inventory means more leverage, and more leverage means a better decision, not just a faster one. Now, I want to be honest with you about something else because I don't want you walking away from this thinking every single town in New Haven County is a slam dunk. More inventory doesn't automatically mean lower prices. It doesn't mean every town in the county fits your specific budget or lifestyle. Some towns skew higher. Some towns skew lower. Some are more suburban, some are more urban, and that's exactly the kind of nuance a county-wide number can't tell you by itself. What the data does mean is if you're buying and you want real options instead of a scramble, New Haven County deserves a much closer look than it's probably getting in your search right now, especially if you've only been looking at Fairfield or Hartford, because those are the names that kept coming up for you. This ties directly into something I talked about in another video about which part of the state let buyers actually negotiate instead of getting steamrolled in bidding wars. Inventory and negotiating power go hand in hand. When there's more supply relative to how fast homes are selling, sellers have less leverage and buyers get more out of it. That's true whether you're looking at Litchfield County's slower pace or New Haven County's deeper pool of listings. The counties putting up the biggest numbers online, the ones everybody's talking about and they know before they even move here, are often the ones giving buyers the least amount of actual choice once they get into a search. And that's the exact trap I want you to avoid. Don't chase the name you heard instead of chasing the numbers that actually tell you where your search could go more smoothly. Now, look, I'm not telling you to ignore Fairfield County or ignore Hartford County. Some of you need to be closer to a specific corridor, closer to family, or maybe you just want a specific lifestyle that that county offers, and you're completely fair to prioritize. That's a conversation worth having on its own. But if having real options during your home search matters to you and you haven't looked closely at New Haven County yet, this is exactly the kind of data that should change where you're spending your search time going forward. And that's exactly why we walk buyers through this in real time instead of letting them guess their way through it. Because a county-wide number is a starting point, it's not the whole answer. So you want to know which single county gives buyers the most homes to actually choose from? The county with more active inventory than any other county I work, more than Fairfield, more than Hartford, and double Litchfield, it's New Haven County. If you want a real pool of homes to compare, instead of settling for whatever's left on the market by the time you find it, that's exactly where you should be searching for your dream home. First things first, have a real conversation about budget, set the budget, pick the county, narrow it down to the towns. If you want to know which part of Connecticut lets you actually negotiate once you found the house you want, not just choose from more of them, I made a full video breaking down exactly where buyers are still winning below asking price. Go ahead and click it. I'll meet you over there.